Hi, everyone. It's a lovely evening. It is my pleasure to introduce Stacia Pusey, Assistant Dean of the School of Education. Sorry about that. To provide tonight's welcome. Since 2014, Stacia Pusey has served as the School of Education Assistant Dean of Enrollment and Student Services and continues to manage the Office of Admissions and Student Services. Stacia is a key member of the leadership team in education, one whose responsibilities, in part, encompass enrollment management, advising services, and overseeing critical student overseeing critical student issues. Because of her work in these areas, Stacia also serves on a number of college-wide and university-wide committees. To be in service is a role Stacia takes very seriously. Outside of work, she makes time to volunteer, was board secretary of the Early Childhood Education Center in the Crotona section of the Bronx for over 14 plus years. Today, she currently serves as a mentor in higher education. It's my pleasure to introduce Assistant Dean Stacia Pusey.
Thank you, Dr. Billig, for that gracious introduction. First, please allow me to apologize for the absence of the Dean of the School of Education, Dr. Edwin M. Lamboy, at the top of this event. He's unavoidably detained and does plan to join us as soon as he's able to this evening. I am delighted and honored to bring greetings from the City College School of Education. A warm welcome to my colleagues from the School of Education, from the wider CCNY and CUNY community. Welcome to Education Alumni Board members, to current and past students, family and friends. A special welcome to University Dean Ashley Thompson and tonight's featured panelists, Lily, Mahir, Devin, Daniel, Matthew, Brooke, Nanad, John, Michael, and Radine. This event, part of our Centennial Celebration series, is the School of Education Alumni Voices, highlights of special programs. The School of Education is at its 100th year mark, and as we continue to celebrate this milestone, it is important that we call upon all stakeholders to help guide us through the next 100 years. Tonight, as we celebrate our special program, we will hear from Teacher Academy, Noyce, New York City Teaching Fellows, and New York Men Teach alums. As we listen to the panelists, we will smile, laugh, and cheer them on, and recall with them the many memories from their experiences at City and memories now that they are creating in their current work. It is my hope that from their accounts, we listeners find kernels of truth that fuel our work in the School of Education. Are we continuing to meet the educational needs for our city, state, and nation? I believe our answer, forged 100 years ago as the oldest school of education in CUNY, will be whispered, we are. Continue to look to the School of Education alums. Again, welcome to the School of Education Alumni Voices, highlights of special programs. And now I throw to Leonard. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stacia. It was indeed a remarkable introduction to this wonderful program that we are going to be participating in as we listen to the voices of some of the graduates of our program. First, let me mention that this program is organized by, as Stacia said, two of the Centennial subcommittees, the Student Involvement Committee and the School of Education Alumni Subcommittee. But before we hear from the graduates of these programs, let me just describe some of the special programs that we've had at CCNY Now, you're very familiar with the degree programs in the School of Education in which you earn a degree through the regular traditional route. However, over the years, as Stacia mentioned, School of Education has carved out special programs to address specific needs that arise in the public school system in New York City. And so this evening, we will focus on some of these programs. But before we focus on those special programs, let me mention some others. The Austrian teacher program actually was initiated by Dr. Alfred Parmentier in 1998. It focused on recruiting math and science teachers from Austria to teach in New York City public schools. The teachers stayed for about at least 2 years and some as long as 10 years. And over the decade that the program existed, it recruited over 750 teachers to teach math and science in the New York City public schools. Math in the City is a national center for research in K-12 mathematics education and was founded in 1995 by Professor Kathy Fosnot. Math in the City was a collaboration between the City College of New York and the Freudenthal Institute from the University of Utrecht in the Netherlands. Today, it functions as a think tank and Center for Professional Development in Mathematics Education, and has trained thousands of teachers from across the nation in workshops and institutes that are offered right here at CCNY. The Men Teach program at CCNY is a collaborative effort of the Young Men's Initiative, Department of Education, CUNY's Center for Economic Opportunity, and Teach for America. The program recruits and prepares the Black, Latino, and Asian men to teach in New York's diverse student population. However, the program does not discriminate on race or gender, and so all eligible applicants are welcome to apply. That program supports professional development and leadership to empower its participants to serve in their communities. Walter Gregg is the director of the Men Teach program at CCNY. The New York City Teaching Fellows is an alternative teacher preparation program that prepares career changers to teach in New York City. Actually, the Teaching Fellows program was created in 2000 by the Department of Education in collaboration with CCNY when Dr. Alfred Parmentier was dean. That program has trained hundreds, if not thousands, of teaching fellows in several high-need subject areas. The director of the New York City Teaching Fellows at CCNY is Dr. Tristan Wildstein. The CUNY Teacher Academy at CCNY started in 2006 and it ran until 2012. That program was sponsored by a grant from the Petrie Foundation. The program is a collaboration of CUNY, the Department of Education, and the Office of Teacher Excellence. It supported qualified middle and high school math and science aspiring teachers for 4 years. Students participated in weekly fieldwork with partner schools and attended weekly seminars. The PI of that program at that time was Dr. Jim Newar. Now, the Noyce Teacher Academy at CCNY started in 2013 and ran until 2018. The CCNY Noyce Teacher Academy was sponsored by a five-year grant from the National Science Foundation Robert Noyce Scholarship Program. Dr. Despina Stiliano, Professor of Mathematics and Education, was a principal investigator. Qualified STEM majors were awarded 2-year scholarships and stipend and participated in weekly fieldwork at our middle and high school partner schools and also attended weekly seminars. Let me mention also the Algebra for All, which is a collaboration between New York City Department of Education and CUNY. And it provides teachers with an opportunity to earn a 15-credit micro-credential in mathematics content and pedagogy with tuition and fees paid by CUNY. In order to ensure that all students are college and pedagogy ready to teach algebra in grades 5. The Algebra for All Extension program helps to build bridges from the elementary to middle school in mathematics. This also is a partnership between New York City Department of Education and CUNY. And the Master's in Education Professional Certificate helps these students to step into middle school mathematics teaching and leadership in the public schools. The LEAP program, Learning Through Early Algebra Progression, the fundamental belief of that project is that children who have rich, sustained algebra experiences during elementary school are better prepared for algebra in middle school than children who have only arithmetic-based experiences during elementary school. This research-based project uses experimental research to test the effectiveness of a comprehensive longitudinal early algebra intervention using models and tools that they had developed in prior research. The Subsidized Bilingual Extension Program is a program that's offered by the Bilingual TESOL Education Program in conjunction with the New York City Department of Education. It prepares teachers to teach bilingual classes and at least a bilingual education extension. Now, more will be said with this program by the panelists. Math for America was also another special program that was designed with the intent to prepare math teachers to teach in New York City public schools. CCNY also worked with the Lincoln Center, which is an initiative with the Lincoln Center Teacher Education Collaborative. The liaisons for that program were Catherine Franklin, Professor Catherine Franklin, and Gretchen Johnson. And that collaboration lasted for about 10 years. Let me mention two others. The Intensive Teacher Institute for Bilingual Education was a program that was initiated by Dr. Doris Cintron, who is the current Senior Associate Provost in the Academic Affairs and Assessment Office here at CCNY. And that program provided tuition assistance for full-time bilingual and ESL teachers to meet their bilingual education and TESOL certification requirements in general and special education. Did you know that we had a program at Rockland County? It was the Rockland Teacher Center Institute. And that program prepared special education teachers to teach in the public schools as well. Teach for America in Special Education was another special education that we had right here at CCNY. And now finally, College Now. College Now actually was once housed in the School of Education. This program that helps high school students meet their graduation requirements and prepares them for academic and social success in college was actually run by Professor Joyce Coppin, who at that time was the program director before it was moved to another unit at CCNY. Now, these programs all demonstrate that the School of Education designed innovative ways to respond in meeting the needs of the public education system in New York City that serves to educate the diverse student population we have. And now, let me introduce the moderator for this evening's program, Dr. Tristan Wildstein. Dr. Tristan Wildstein is the director for the New York City Teaching Fellows and the New York City Teaching Collaborative Programs. She's also the academic advisor to everyone in those special programs. She's been at CCNY for almost 10 years and will be the moderator for this evening's panel discussion. Dr. Wildstein.
Thanks, everyone. It's nice to see you all. I can see you clapping. I can hear it in my mind's eye. It's nice to see everyone this evening, and I want to thank our panelists who have given their time so generously to be here to share this stimulating conversation with us. I would love to introduce each of our panelists. I'm going to give them each about a minute to speak, asking them to share their name, their current position, and the program in which they participated, saying as well a few words about that program. So I'm going to first introduce Brooke Arcy, who is a member of our New York City Teaching Fellows. to give a couple words about where she is now and what her experience was, or what program she was in. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Brooke Arcy again. I am currently a special education teacher servicing District 9 in the South Bronx, grade 7th as a humanities teacher. I come from cohort 33 of the New York Teaching Fellows, class of 2021. And basically the program helps prepare possible candidates to become teachers in low, underprivileged neighborhoods. And so we were put into high need schools, and the school that I was actually assigned to is where I still currently work.
Thank you so much, Brooke. The next person I would like to introduce is Daniel Volkman, who is a former teaching fellow as well.
Hi, my name is Daniel Volkman. I'm a current grade 9 literature teacher at Achievement First, Brooklyn High School. I was in the teaching fellows and in the TEFL EML cohort. For me, the teaching fellows was a fairly transformative experience of my time as a teacher, and it has consistently helped me to maintain high expectations of my students and of myself and my own pedagogy as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next participant, also a teaching fellow, John Mccook.
Hi, everyone. My name is John Mccook. I'm a special education teacher in cohort 32 of the New York Teaching Fellows Program. I'm a career changer. I was a senior VP of a major corporation for 32 years, and a health condition of a loved one forced me to realize how short life was. And I looked for a program where I could actually learn to become a teacher and teach at the same time. And the Teaching Fellows is a perfect program for career changers, no matter how old or young you are. At 55, I completely walked away from a career of many decades and started my journey to become a teacher. And it has been the most rewarding experience of my life, and I've never looked back. So I'm very grateful to be here. I'm very grateful to CUNY and to the Teaching Fellows Program for making my dreams come true. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And finally, representing the Teaching Fellows is Matthew Whipcha.
Thank you, Dr. Weinstein. Good evening, everyone. My name is Matthew Whipcha. I currently teach at Discovery High School. It's 10X549. I'm a special education teacher. Specifically at Discovery, I work with the English language arts grades 9 and 10 and have for the past 3 consecutive years. I am a 2021 graduate of City College, and as Dr. Wildstein said, I did complete New York City Teaching Fellows. For me, I came from a little bit of a different background. I was a teacher overseas for several years, and for me, Teaching Fellows was the right path to choose to become a professional and acquire my credentials to become a teacher here in my home state of New York. So as many of our teaching fellow panelists have said, it's a wonderful opportunity. And once the decision was made, I didn't look back as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Representing our subsidized bilingual education program, I'd like to introduce Lily Padilla.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here with you. My name is Lily Padilla. I am currently a PhD candidate in bilingual special education, teaching and learning at New York University. And I also work as an adjunct professor at Hunter College, as well as here at City College, and am an academic advisor here at City College. And like Tristan said, I was part of the subsidized bilingual extension program many years ago. So I, in a past life, was a special education teacher in District 75 in the Bronx, and came back to school after I did my master's to get my bilingual extension at City College through the subsidized program to enable me to better support my students who are emergent bilingual and also had disabilities.
Representing the New York City Min Teach program is Mahir Sayed.
Yes, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Mihir Syed, part of NYC Men Teach, and I'm a first-year teacher at the High School for Health Professions, teaching 12th grade government. And my experiences both at NYC Men Teach and CCNY overall really laid the foundation of me as a teacher. And it's been an interesting 2 months or so, but I've enjoyed every moment for the most part. And it's been a learning process for sure, but I'm really happy to be here. Both as a teacher and also in this discussion.
Thank you very much. Next up, I'd love to introduce from the Noyce Teaching Academy, Radine Mitchell.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Again, my name is Radine Mitchell, and I am a Regents Bio and Non-Regents Chemistry teacher at Tuckahoe High School in Eastchester, New York. And I was a part of the Noyce Teacher Academy, which was a wonderful program with Professor Rosenman and Marty Rosenman, for those of you who might not know. And the way the program was structured, he made it such a wonderful time to encourage community amongst other science and math majors to really find a place that, you know, I'd sit in science classes and nobody else was, you know, an educator really. Everyone was pre-med or anything like that. So it was nice to come back to Noyce and be a part of something and also get some really awesome fieldwork opportunities. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up, I'd love to introduce Ninan Chaudhary from the Noyce Teacher Academy as well.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I actually was part of the Teacher Academy in 2006 to 2010, was the first cohort of that program. And I was a bio major, pre-med, and this program came up that was recruiting science teachers. I love children, joined the program and fell in love with teaching science. So it was perfect for me. So I currently teach at Queens Metropolitan High School in Forest Hills, Queens. I teach 9th grade living environment. I also teach AP Bio, and I also am the department chair for the science department. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Thanks for joining us. We also will have a word from Devin Thomas, also a part of the Noyce Teacher Academy, at the end of tonight's program. Devin was slated to attend tonight's event, but couldn't make it. And so he was kind enough to record a message for us that we'll share at the very closing of the program. And that leaves, last but certainly not least, from the Noyce Teacher Academy, Michael Mcdonald. And I'd love for him to introduce himself before we get started with our questions.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is Michael Mcdonald. I was a part of the Teacher Academy in the 3rd cohort, 2 years after Ninat. Since then, I have taught middle school and high school mathematics and am now currently the director of mathematics for the 39 schools in Yonkers for grades pre-K through 12.
Thank you so much. So now that everybody has introduced themselves, I will say I am very impressed that I gave you all each a minute and we have not exceeded our time limit at all. So well done, everyone. So we're going to stick with that scheduling perfection and move on to our panel. We've asked everybody in this panel to think about the following 5 questions, and we're going to give each questions about 10 minutes. While we're answering these questions, I would love to invite everyone who's attending tonight's event to ask any questions you may have in our chat. We have a wonderful moderator who will be collecting those questions and submitting them at the end of the program as we have time. So please feel free to direct your questions to everyone. You can send them to me, or you can send them, if you have to select someone in the chat box, you can select Marty Rosenman. And otherwise, and also I wanted to say, you can direct that question to someone or you can ask it to all of our panelists. So please be as involved as you'd like with that. So the first question that I'm going to open the floor to is, how did your special program motivate you to become a teacher in the profession? Now, I'll say that a lot of our participants had decided that they wanted to become teachers already. So we kind of invited everyone to think of this question in terms of how did it direct their journey? How did it motivate them in a particular particular direction. And the people who I'd like to invite to kick us off with this conversation are Mahir, Matthew, Ninan, and Radine.
So I guess I'll get started with it. So NYC Med Teach, definitely the biggest thing that happened to me, for me when I was pursuing education and teaching. I remember when I was a sophomore in college at CCNY, I was pursuing civil engineering, and I decided that I did not want to do that anymore. And I knew that I wanted to be a teacher. I knew I wanted to teach people, work with people. And I thought teaching was the best option for that. So I said, let me give this a try and see how it goes. I went to speak to Professor Stelliano, the math director at CCNY for math education. Now I teach social studies now, but that was a whole other story. But she directed me to Walter Gregg from NYC Men Teach. And I was intrigued by the Metro cards, to be honest, because NYC Men Teach used to give free monthly Metro cards, which was a great perk. So I was like, yeah, let me join this and see what happens. But it really became so much more than that. NYC Men Teach served as an organization that reminded me about my own passion and the purpose of me as an educator, as a person of color, as a man of color also. I thought about my own experience in education, not really having many teachers of color that were men, and no Bengali teachers. And now where I teach now, I have a lot of Bengali students, which is really cool. And I have a lot of students of color. It's really interesting connecting with them on that level and seeing it all come full circle. But NYC Men Teach really helped me turn teaching from like an interest really into a passion.
Oh, sorry. You can go ahead.
I just wanted to piggyback off of that, hearing Mahir talk about Bengali teachers. I am too Bengali, grew up in New York City, went to New York City public schools, never saw a Bengali teacher. And so I actually started off college, my first year, pre-med bio major, went through my freshman year of college, loved it, that I'm going to be a pediatrician. I come up from a family of teachers. It was very much pushed on me to become a teacher. And I really, just avoided it at 17, 18. I said, no, it's not what I want to do, Mom. I want to be a pediatrician. And then I discovered the Teacher Academy, which said, hey, we'll let you continue to study the science you want to study. But, let's also throw in the education minor. And I was like, oh, this is a win-win situation. So I joined it, and I didn't want to admit it to my family, but I loved it. It was exactly what Radine was saying earlier. I would go to my science courses, but then I would go to the education courses, and it was a combination of the two. And I love children, I love science. And really it was about, how do I get this love for science in other students? Because it happened for me in New York City public schools. Every teacher I had, every science teacher I had made me love science. And I just wanted to do that for others and also represent, for me, Bengali representation within New York City, because we have such a high population. And I love seeing Bengali students now as a teacher. And I've been doing this for 12 years. And the more I teach, the more students I see. And it's really nice to see their eyes light up too when they see that I'm also from where they're from. So.
And I think you said it like perfectly. And honestly, a lot of the similar experiences that you had is something I had as well. I started off at community college, and I knew I wanted to be pre-med, go into pediatrics actually as well, which I find very funny. And then funny enough, I applied to the Sophie Davis program and I didn't get in, and I was very discouraged, but I thought about it, and I always knew growing up I wanted to either be a doctor or a teacher. I didn't care which one I did. I knew I wanted to be either one. And I was like, well, I didn't get in, so maybe that's a sign that I should look into something else. So I looked into it and I found Noyce, and I spoke to Dr. Steinberg, and it just sounded really awesome to not only have a place where I could still major in biology, but also that I could be with other educators and be kind of immersed in that as well. I grew up in Rockland County, New York, and I didn't see a lot of other science teachers of color, especially women even. And so it was really, really awesome to be a part of that. And, even now at my school that I currently teach at, there's not many teachers of color. And so, occasionally some of my students would be like, it's really awesome to have, not only a teacher of color, but also a science teacher of color. And it's really just a wonderful time. I apologize, my lights are sensor lights, but essentially that was my point. And, you know, it felt really right to be a part of the program, and it just made sense.
Hi again, everyone. Matthew Whipcha here. When I received this question, how did the special program New York City Teaching Fellows motivate me to become a teacher in the profession? And I ruminated on it and I reflected on it. I kind of reworked that question my own way into more of how did this special program, the Teaching Fellows, bring me to become a teacher and continue my interest in the program. In my very brief introduction, I mentioned that I had taught overseas for many years before returning to my home country here in the United States. And I reflected to myself some years ago before coming back and being accepted to the fellowship, how would I take my skills and my passions and my interests in my repertoire in the classroom, if you will, to the classrooms here of New York City. And having done some research and attending virtual seminars about New York City Teaching Fellows, I saw the folks that were doing this, the folks that were continuing to work with Teaching Fellows and stay in the classroom. And that was more my the spirit behind how I became involved in the Teaching Fellows. And still here we are today, like all of our other fine panelists. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd also like to invite any of our other panelists to add what their response to this question as well.
I'll join on. So I always knew that I wanted to be a teacher, and I actually applied back in 2015 to the New York City Teaching Fellows program, and I was accepted into the program. Unfortunately, I did not follow through, and I decided I'm going to be a manager in healthcare. I'm not too sure why I decided that was where I belonged in the time, but I did. I decided to go into healthcare, and I spent 5 years in healthcare and management and helping doctors. And then I had my daughter, and here I was with a baby in my arms. And I said, what am I doing with myself? How am I going to show her that I can achieve my dreams? So I literally held her. I applied back to the New York Teachers Fellows program. And there's this question that's asked you, have you applied for the program before? And I'm like, here it goes. I'm not going to get in. And so I click yes, and another drop down question opens and asks you, why did you not join the program? And so I was honest. And I said exactly my truth. I received an opportunity to be a manager, and I thought that was my path. And I have a daughter now, and I want to show her that, your journey may change, and every person's path is different, but you can fulfill it, fulfill this goal that you have. And that's exactly what I wrote. And they called me back, and I got into the program, and I became that teacher. And I wanted to show my daughter that, yes, you can do it. You can do it. And the Teachers Fellow program gave an opportunity not only to people who change careers, but even when you made a mistake. And that's what I felt that the program appealed to me. It helped motivate me in saying, like, it's okay, you can do it again. And that was one of the best gifts the program gave.
Thank you to everyone for your thoughtful answers to that. It's been so interesting to hear how you came to these programs and what was your motivation. I do see that the Dean of the School of Education, Dean Edwin Lamboy, has joined us. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for coming. Hi. And I'll give you a couple minutes at the very end of the program. So I won't make you come off mute now, but I wanted to share with everybody that he's here with us tonight as well. Moving on to our second question of the evening. What were the most influential experiences in your special program? And I'd like to ask Michael, Brooke, and John to get us started with that conversation.
I'll start. I felt the excitement of the New York Teaching Fellows program the minute I auditioned. when we were all called back for our tryouts, if you will, for the Teaching Fellows program. It was literally the most exciting experience to see a room full of people who were dying to be teachers, who wanted that privilege to become a teacher. And it was a daunting experience to offer a lesson in front of a line of DOE teachers and impress them and show that you had some kind of spark that they were looking for in becoming a teacher. And I realized what an honor and privilege it was and how selective they are. So that was my first impression of the Teaching Fellows program. And it was also sort of a moment for me where, after being an expert in my field for all those years, I was a complete newbie all over again and not knowing anything. And that's a very humbling experience. So the Teaching Fellows program has come with its so many rewards, but it's a very humbling experience because we are learning so much and we don't have all the answers and we still don't have all the answers. So that was really informative for me. It's a very special feeling that we all had as we embarked on this adventure together. I remember my training teacher, Rachel Williams, who might or might not be on this call, greeted us and gave us the sense of you guys are starting on the most exciting chapter of your lives. And she delivered on that promise. And she kept us energized and excited and really formed a community. And that community, by the way, is still our core support network. The friendships that we formed in those first minutes of the program are the ones that we still have today. And those guys are our support network. We've been through it together and we are still in it together. And we're there to lean on each other during triumphs and challenges. So I can't emphasize the importance of camaraderie that we felt, privilege and excitement and camaraderie. And I felt that throughout the whole thing. I think probably a top 5 moment in my life that I had was after my first semester of being a teacher, still immersed in grad school, still immersed in training. And I was teaching seniors, government and ELA. And I was sitting on stage with the other teachers. I was a brand new teacher. And they had a yellow rose ceremony where all the seniors got their yellow roses from a big pile and gave it to their parents or the people that influenced them the most. And as a father, I'm sitting there thinking, my son's going to graduate in a couple of years. And I was getting all emotional and choked up watching this beautiful ceremony unfold. And all of a sudden, one of my kids comes up on stage and gives me his yellow rose. And I ugly cried in front of the entire school. And I couldn't pull it back together again. I had to go home after that. I fell apart. But it was a moment that made me realize that I am actually reaching these kids and making a difference. And it completely shaped my career moving forward. That with all the insecurities and all the apprehension that we feel as we just start out, that you are making a difference every single minute. And that, to me, top 5 moment, hands down. So that's my perspective.
I'll continue on. Thanks, John. You definitely hit some nails that I wanted to talk about. Who can you not forget about your first summer when you are thrown into training and you're put into a classroom and it is day 1, hour 1, minute 1, and you are told to tell the kids you've been a teacher. That's it. You've been a teacher. You got a lesson. You got to go. And you're in front of these kids. And it's 12 or 13 of them in summer school. And they think that you've been a teacher forever and you better roll with that lie. Wow. And, we have our coaches and we have our field experience managers and they're giving you little hints and they're teaching you things to say and how to do silent cues and wave your fingers and clap and so forth. And I'm thinking to myself, I got no clue what I'm doing. And here these kids believe this. Oh my gosh. Right. And so every day that summer, I can remember myself in those classrooms and telling myself, you got to stay, you got to be convincing because these kids think you're a teacher. And then there was this moment that I am a teacher. I am a teacher in this classroom. right? And so you start to build these relationships with these children. And so this is just summer, right? This is about 12 weeks with them. And you begin to build these relationships, and then you remember their names. And then you can start to say things like, how was yesterday? Didn't you go to basketball? And didn't you do so forth? And then they, hey, Miss Arcy, how are you? Oh, me? I'm Miss Arcy, right? Suddenly this new identity starts to form. And so just a month ago, I was, you know, a manager or just an average Joe. And then to the next day, you're a teacher in this classroom in the summertime. But the most influential moment of my program was the last day of that summer training. I had to stand in front of these kids and tell them goodbye. And 12 weeks later, I had relationships with the children. They were looking forward to seeing me. I taught them lessons that I didn't even know I can do. And I said to them, you know, this is my last day seeing you. And I don't know if our path will ever cross again. I hope that they do. And I started to choke up in that moment because a seed was planted in me, and it was the kids. The kids taught me the lesson, right? And they're all, Miss Arcy, where are you going? No, can you be our teacher for next year? And I said, it's just been 12 weeks and I made an impact. Oh, I can still get goosebumps. I can still remember John in that room. I can still remember Alex in that room, and these kids that you changed their life in just 2 months. And so it was that moment that I said, oh my God, I'm a teacher. It was that moment in that room, in that summertime, that I knew this was my calling and that those kids wanted me there. And it was rewarding, you know, it was the most rewarding moment. And it told me that I meant to do this, you know?
I guess a lot of the things that were described, I feel like I got some of those same things out of my special program, but had very different training in that as a teacher academy member, we were in classrooms from freshman year through graduation. So I feel like in that way, the preparation was so long-term that by the time we graduated, I felt so comfortable and in a position of success in teaching because I had taken over classrooms. I had worked with a wonderful set of cooperating teachers. And I felt like those 4 years in classrooms really gave me the time to develop my teaching persona. I feel like teaching in a lot of ways is a performance, and you have to, you know, find yourself and who you're going to be in front of that classroom. And that takes some time. And I feel like I was able to develop that because of the experiences that I had in the teacher academy. And to piggyback off of the camaraderie that John had mentioned earlier, I feel like the challenges I faced as an educator starting out, I feel like I only got through that because of the network that was available through the teacher academy and the people that I got to meet at City College. And I remember, as I'm sure many first year teachers remember, those moments where, you know, you question some of your decisions and you're like, did I make the right choice in doing this? Because it was a particularly challenging day. And then I remember having those conversations with some people in my cohort who had those shared experiences and were able to support me. And then even having just great mentors in people like Dr. Billig and Dr. Stiliano and Marty Rosenman. That network was so important because you have, you know, a lot of people drop out of the teaching profession. I'm sorry, I'm hearing some background noise. Is anyone else hearing that?
I hear it as well. I will ask that anybody who can mute to go ahead and mute. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay, I didn't know if that was something on my end. Thank you. But there are a lot of beginning professionals in teaching that end up dropping out due to lack of support, and I never really felt that. I always had a tremendous amount of support because of the camaraderie and the cohort and the family that we've built. I feel like the group of people that I went through the teacher academy with, we've gone to each other's weddings, we've met each other's kids, we still keep in touch, and you know, we're basically 10 years later, and we're still such important parts of each other's lives, and many of us are still teaching. So I think it speaks to the power of a program like this, that, you know, when you build a family of people committed to something like teaching, as challenging as teaching can be, people see the value in it and want to continue doing it. And it does become that passion that people want to be a part of.
That's amazing. Thank you. So that was Michael Mcdonald, who I wanted to just make a quick correction from before. I had mentioned that he was part of the Noyce Teacher Academy, and I was mistaken. He and Ninan were both part of this CUNY Teacher Academy at CCNY. So apologies for that. So on to our next question. I wanted to ask our panelists, why did you decide on this particular program, and how did it impact your professional development? I will point this in the direction of Mahir, Daniel, Radine, and Ninan.
So I can start. So when I graduated college, I had signed up for the Peace Corps, and they said you needed some teaching experience with your degree. So I went to teach adults in a TEFL program back in Ohio, and it was a very positive experience for me. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed interacting with a lot of the adults in the program. And when I went to Albania for the Peace Corps. When I came back, I had wanted to continue teaching in some way, and so the teaching fellows had a program that would have allowed me to get a master's degree, to teach in the classroom, to get that experience, to get that training instantly, or not instantly, but you know, in a quick manner. So for me, it was just, as I said before, transformative and a pinnacle experience to me, becoming a teacher in my life.
I can go next. So I think, firstly, the thing that appealed to me most about the Noyce Teacher Academy was they offered to pay for my tuition, and in turn I had to do field work at different schools. And I was like, I'm getting my tuition paid for and I get experience. Where's the issue? You know, I couldn't find one. And I was like, this is fantastic. And I was I was so pumped and excited to be a part of the program. And I just, after speaking with Dr. Steinberg and Marty Rosenman, I felt very comfortable, and it just, after the everything they were describing about the program, and it just seemed again to make sense and click. And I was a bio major, and I didn't find many people who were going the education route as bio or science or math majors. And at first I would feel kind of alone and things like that, but over time I felt really cool. I was like, yeah, I'm just going into education, no big deal. And I found a lot of community in other students who were also going down the same path as me, having classes with other Noyce students. And I'm in my third year of teaching now, and I was part of the Noyce Teacher Academy from 2016 until the program was concluded in 2018. And I graduated in 2019. And I've just, from 2016 until now, the amount of growth I've had, I can truly attribute to the Noyce Teacher Academy, just because it really taught me to get out of my comfort zone from the minute I got there until now. And, you know, all the things, all the tactics that I learned during that program, it just, I use everything that I've learned today. And I don't see why I wouldn't continue doing so moving forward. And the thing that I took from the Noyce Teacher Academy the most is a sense of community, is understanding that the importance of creating that community, not only in your colleagues, but also even with your students. And, you know, it's a beautiful thing when I see a student walking down the hallway and it's simple, hey, Miss Mitchell, or, you know, hey, how's it going? And even if a student looks so like over it, they're not into the day, just a simple, hey, how's it going? You doing okay? Like, oh, I saw the game. That was awesome. You know, building that sense of community with your kids is just as important as building it with your colleagues. And again, that's something I learned with the Teacher Academy.
So I went to the Teacher Academy, and it was the first cohort in 2006. And I was a sophomore in college at the time. I was 18. Again, I chose the program because it let me continue to study science while getting a minor in secondary education. And what I didn't realize is kind of what Radine was talking about, what Michael talked about earlier, is that I signed up to know all of these people, to become part of this community of like-minded individuals. I still remember, you know, we would take the education classes together, the entire cohort, and a class with Professor Susan Semmel, and we were having a discussion about, you know, the disadvantages that certain populations have in New York City schools, and how education looks different school to school, borough to borough, district to district. And, you know, I grew up in Queens, New York, my entire life, went to public schools. I hadn't visited other schools. I didn't know from that perspective that, you know, resources weren't the same. This was 18-year-old me discovering this for the first time. And I just remember thinking like, okay, like this is what I'm going to do. And so the program really, the fact that we met every week, we had a seminar every Friday. We would go to different schools. I visited so many different schools, watched so many different teachers, worked with different cooperating teachers. It gave me this experience for 4 years. And, you know, they paid us for the internships as well. So it wasn't just, you know, you giving your time, but that experience was just priceless. My first day, I remember, you know, of course, having regular nerves, but I just remember feeling this, this feeling of being comfortable in front of the room that I know a lot of first-year teachers didn't have when they were thrown into the classroom. So having 4 years of that experience, that really stood out to me for the Teacher Academy, and getting that support. You know, Marty Rosenman, Bruce Billig, I have pictures of them with me 11 years ago at graduation. I told them they look exactly the same today as they did that day. But, you know, they're still support for me. If I have a concern, I would still, you know, email Marty or call Marty or text him to ask for advice. So definitely that community, having people who are like-minded as you, and trying to make a change. So that was definitely the motivation to pick this program.
So with NYC Men Teach, as I mentioned earlier, I was like intrigued by the Metro cards, but the mission overall was really what brought me in. I kind of went through a different route in terms of, I was pursuing math education at first, but then I switched to history outright and got my teacher ed degree during my master's. But while I was getting my math ed degree / history, as I was going through that, NYC Men Teach was a consistent program to just have me hooked on, especially when I was a history major, not taking any education classes. NYC Men Teach kind of became my professional development, in a sense, where we had our monthly colloquium series and workshops where we would go through how we would plan a lesson, how we would use certain resources. And they were all really beneficial for me because I didn't have that experience in education classes at the time. And not just that, on top of that, we had NYC Men Teach Day. We had this one in the summer, which would be at Teachers College. And every single one of those events really reminded me about my purpose as a teacher, my passion as an educator, and it reminded me what I was doing the work for. And on top of that, I had the consistent meetings with Walter Gregg, who really said, this is what we're missing, this is what we're getting towards, and really reminded me exactly what we were working towards. And that really helped me kind of stay on task. I remember leaving Walter's office every time feeling more and more motivated. And I also got a job at the NYC Men Teach office as a college assistant to help me out during undergrad. And so all of those are components that NYC Men Teach really helped me out with.
Thank you all for sharing. That's really interesting. I just wanted to remind everybody that if you have any questions, we will have a Q&A shortly, and please feel free to enter those into the chat box. Our next question, I'd like to direct to Lily, Michael, and Daniel. And the question is, how did you manage to achieve the success that you have since you've graduated from your special program?
I can start. So hi again, everyone. So I did the subsidized bilingual extension program. When I came to City College, I was already a certified teacher in special ed, but City College prepared me to get my bilingual extension to teach bilingual special education. And that had been something that I had really been grappling with the whole time that I was a special ed teacher. I came into District 75 my first year and had a class of 6 students, all diagnosed with autism. And 3 of those 6 came from homes where English was not spoken. And 4 of my 6 students were classified as nonverbal, so they didn't primarily speak to communicate. So City College and the bilingual extension really gave me the tools to help figure out what was going on with my students in terms of language development and how to best support them, as well as cognitive development, and really support students and families living at those intersections. It did in some ways make more work for me because I also started learning about the rights that students and parents are entitled to. For example, a bilingual certified teacher present to translate at IEP meetings. So I ended up getting sent to all the IEP meetings to be the translator. But it really gave me the courage and understanding to support the rights of students and families, and to empower other teachers in the school to do the same, and to really focus on how to support our students living at those intersections. And ultimately, I did leave the classroom. I became an instructional coach, and now I'm working on my PhD and teaching at the college level, specifically focusing on bilingual special ed. So City College truly led me down this path to the place that I'm at now, focusing my dissertation work on how we can better support our students who are primarily nonverbal and bilingual. So I'm ever grateful to City College for that. And I also still keep in touch with my cohort of subsidized bilingual extension program. We started off being together 5 hours a day on Saturdays. So you know that people are committed, and there's no bond like that. Teachers spending their Saturdays together, learning how to amplify the brilliance of bilingual students.
I can continue. I say it a lot. My wife is from the Teacher Academy too. And so she was from the cohort before me. And we talk about the Teacher Academy all the time, and the people that we met through the Teacher Academy. And we honestly owe a lot of the success that we've achieved to the things that we learned in the Teacher Academy. As our first year teacher, well, as a second year teacher, I was asked to be the department head and run an instructional curriculum audit for the school in which I was teaching. And I kind of became a bit of a go-to person in that particular school because of the experiences that I had leading up to my profession. I feel like all of the exposure that I had in 4 years at City College through the Teacher Academy put me in a better place to start, where I didn't necessarily feel like a first-year teacher when I was a first-year teacher. There were a lot of first-year teachers that started in the same school that I did, And we would have these conversations about how their teacher preparation programs, they didn't feel truly prepared them for some of the challenges that they were facing in their classrooms. And I didn't necessarily feel that way. The things that were and are always challenging about teaching, I feel like I was pretty well equipped because of the seminars and the field work and just the lesson planning experience and the things that came with it. And also the math education classes. I feel like in my position now, I communicate a lot with teachers in the Yonkers Public School District. And I feel like my experience with the math education classes and the math educators I got to work with through the Teacher Academy gave me a completely different insight into math education than a lot of the teachers that I currently work with in my position. I feel like I have a much more meaningful and powerful experience with mathematics because of the experiences that I had through the Teacher Academy. And it's been a bit of a full circle moment because now I just recently partnered with Dr. Stiliano in Math in the City to lead professional development for the teachers that I work with in Yonkers. So it's nice to have had that experience myself starting out as an educator and now being able to leverage those relationships and bring it full circle to be able to provide those experiences to other people. And so I definitely think that most, if not all, of the success that I have been able to achieve in my basically 10 years in education, I owe it to starting out in the Teacher Academy at City College for sure.
So I've only been graduated from City College for a year now, or I guess a year and a couple of months now that I think about it. But it was, you know, I don't want to be the first person to mention it tonight, but it was during the COVID part of the beginning of that COVID stuff. So admittedly, there was a lot of stuff that was just new entirely once because of all the stuff we had to do with COVID, all the distance learning, all the new technology we had to learn, a lot of stuff that we weren't necessarily prepared for. But I still found that I was able to utilize a lot of the knowledge because it's not, you know, just it's not static. It's not just for the classroom. It's for the classroom that goes beyond the physical space itself. But I found that currently I work in a charter school now, and there's not a lot of L's here. And the ones that are here, I find that the knowledge that teachers have surrounding issues surrounding or L's and M's and students whose home language is not English, or they don't speak don't speak English at home. I feel like my time at City College and as a teaching fellow prepared me to be somewhat of an expert in this regard when it comes to my fellow staff members. So being in spaces where other people don't know about a lot of the issues and being able to either be a helpful voice or an active voice for those who can't necessarily speak for themselves in the system. I found that the teaching fellows in City College prepared me for that.
Excuse me. Thank you so much for your responses, everyone. It's really cool to hear how much you've all accomplished in the relatively short time since you've been graduated from your programs. It's really impressive. And our final question before we get to the Q&A is, what other experiences about your special program would you like to share with others? And I'd like to direct that question to Lily, Brooke, Matthew, and John.
I can start. So there have been so many experiences that have really shaped my perspective about the Teaching Fellows program. I will say that City College has the most amazing professors, and they are engaged and they care and they're willing to work with you, and they push you and they challenge you, and they, you know, they really are invested in your future. And it's not just like when class is over, it's done. You know, they are an example to us because they're available 24/7, and they are available to assist and to help scaffold. And it's amazing. What I also loved about the City College is that there are so many opportunities to collaborate in small group projects. Again, forming those additional contacts and those networks and being able to share and collaborate in a way that is so special. And it's something that really is a skill that as a teacher, you know, pays off every single day in your ability to collaborate, especially with co-teachers. I will mention that I am a special education teacher at Dream Yard Prep High School in the South Bronx. I didn't mention that earlier. And I teach global studies in 10th grade, and I've done ELA as well. As a SPED teacher, you have to teach everything, which is a challenge about special education. You might be called upon to teach math or something that, you know, you're not necessarily an expert in. So that is definitely a challenge. I will say that, like I think Brooke mentioned, you know, she was holding her daughter and enlisting for this program, that being in the Teaching Fellows program, especially age 55 is when I started, it's an example for my son that hard work pays off. And that if you're willing to commit 200%, you can make anything happen for yourself. And you just have to believe in yourself and have that power. And it's okay to take risks and to work hard for something that you really believe in. That's a great example that I, you know, am able to give my son as he's moving forward. He just started college. So as he's working on his papers, I'm like, yeah, I'm on page 54 of my paper. So I hear you, you know, but it's also, it helps forge his discipline, and you know, that he's willing to sort of push himself. He sees me out of my comfort zone so far, he's willing to push himself as well. I'd also like to say that I had no idea coming into the schools in the South Bronx, how the kids would react to me. And if you genuinely care about the kids, they sense that. And the relationships and the connections I form with the kids have been one of the most special parts of teaching, because they entrust you. And it's such a privilege to be able to shape them and to nurture them. It's probably one of the most exciting things about teaching for me, not only the pedagogy of being able to know your content area and deliver meaningful, rigorous lessons, but also those connections. And as part of the LGBT community, to see students reaching out to me who may be struggling with their own identity and look for guidance and an example is really something profound for me. Something the corporate world just can't deliver. So I just gotta say, so that's probably the most impactful part of this. But the Teaching Fellows program at City College really prepared me for what I was embarking on with this journey. And the stuff that I learned in that training at City College are things that I apply every day. And really it's the willingness to learn and to, if something's working great, if it's not working so well, you need to roll with the punches and change it up a little bit. I think there's so many core skills that, you know, these programs have given us that we are applying every single day, because no matter how long we've been teaching, there's so much to learn and we're never going to be perfect. But, you know, I will say that a lot of us in the cohort where I was in are getting rated effective and things like that. So, you know, the program really prepared us. And I'm really profoundly grateful to City College and to the Teaching Fellows for the gift that they gave me.
Go ahead, Matt. I saw Matthew put his hand up.
Thank you, Brooke. Thank you. Cheers. I'd like to second Mr. Mccook. Michael? Hey, thank you. I concur. City College, I've always felt very supported. This isn't a PR boost. For all my professors from summer 2019 up until last May, I won't list off the myriad of great instructors, but in summary, I've said to my coworkers at Discovery, I've said to other people in the fellowship, I've always felt that the professors, the instructors, were always on the side of the student, if that came out clearly. Oh, yes, yeah, always on the side of the student, never against, never putting the other way, if that makes sense too. That's one point. And two, this question was what other experiences about your special program? For me personally, the past 15 years have been involved in very special programs. Shout out to Daniel, who's a Peace Corps volunteer, return like myself. That was a special program that I started in 2006 in Belize, where I was teaching elementary school. And then I went to another special program, JET program in Nagasaki, Japan. And then another incredible special program brought me here back to my home country, the United States. That's the New York State Teaching Fellows to teach right here in our communities. So when I look back at my life, I marry up those three special programs and it all flowed quite well. I'm very proud of that. Cheers. Thank you.
Just to mirror what John and Matthew stated, City College did such a great job at hosting the teaching fellows that there was really this sense of community from the very beginning. I'm talking day one. They kept us together. We moved through classes together and we were able to connect with the professors. I remember a lot of times when we all came into the classroom, the first thing the professors would do is, okay, tell me how you feel. How was your day? And they really let us vent and filter through our feelings and this unknown world that we were put into. And there was times that a lot of us sat down and second guessed so much of if this is the right thing. I can't tell you how many times I sat outside in front of City College thinking, did I do something correct? Was this the right move for me? And then you come into the classroom and our professors will validate our feelings and say, that's normal. You know, it's totally normal how you're feeling. You're going to get better. You're going to gain experience and you'll be okay. And then when you hear your peers go through the same thing, you feel this ease that the professors in the community that was created. Of course, the pandemic, when it hit, it took us out the classroom. And this is when that sense of community was tested and it didn't change, right? The professors got right on Zoom and they hurt us even more. We were all struggling together. And, there's some professors that just resonate with me so much. We would stay online literally until 11 p.m. I'm talking late in the evening, just talking about the remote learning, how we're doing, what should we do? And the fellows program and City College really invested in us. And so the pandemic, we weren't affected. We were able to stay engaged and be the best students that we were inside the classroom online. And I really think that was why I was able to get through the program, because our limits were tested in so many different ways. But I did look forward to logging into the class. I looked forward, we were all there, we were all ready to go because we were able to just vent and be human. And City College gave us that, that gave us that moment. And I'm so grateful for all of our professors. And a lot of our professors some of them were teaching fellows too. And so they were able to relate to us, and they were principals and they were teachers. And as a special education teacher, one of my fears was writing an IEP, but I was given the tools to be able to write these IEPs that seemed so scary and these illegal documents. And I got to really put in the effort to make sure I know what I'm saying. Just to go a step further, today I actually had parent-teacher conference, and I was just mentioning this. And I spoke to this one parent, and she said to me, his name is Mckay. I know your class, Miss Arcy. I know your class really well. Mckay comes home every day and talks about humanities. I don't know about his math. I don't know about his science, but I know about your class because he really, really talks about your class. And I stopped. And I said, oh my God, really? I couldn't believe it. And we went on to talk about his IEP because there were some discrepancies within his IEP. And I felt that I was a true advocate for the student, and I was representing this mom, and I was truly helping her. And I was able to use the education that I received from City College to talk with her, but with power too, to give her power that she felt for so long she didn't have. And I got off the phone and I called my husband and I said to him, two things. I said, wow, it's been a rough year for teachers. We can all agree to that. I said, but I didn't know I was making an impact. Sometimes you just don't know. You're just in the moment. You're in the trenches and you're just doing your best every single day and you're just showing up. And then I hear Mackay Brown say, he talks about humanities every day. Me? I got goosebumps. And then the second thing I said to my husband today, I said, wow, I was able to empower this parent and tell her that something's up with the IEP. We gotta look deeper. We gotta make changes to the accommodations that he receives. But I was able to really tap into what I learned, and it's from my professors. So City College and the New York Teaching Fellows really empowered me.
That's hard to follow, but I'll try. I think, and I'll be quick. I know we're running down on time, but again, so I did the subsidized bilingual extension program. So I was adding a bilingual extension onto an existing certification, as were all of my classmates. So I was certified in special ed initially, and then got the bilingual extension added. And I think one of the most important things about this program for me was helping to frame this ideology that oftentimes in schools, people say that the L kids belong to the ESL or the ENL teacher. And it really, what this program did for me is help me understand that we are all language teachers and that we should all be incorporating multilingualism into our approach and into our education, and really think about turning the lens on ourselves as educators. Nelson Flores and Jonathan Rosa talk about ratio linguistics and this idea of a white listening subject. And this program really helped me think about myself as a listening subject, teachers and schools as listening subjects, that it's not just about assessing how our kids speak or communicate themselves, but how are we making space to understand them in all of their fullness. And I really thank City College for providing me with the tools to come to that analysis.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being mindful of the time. We are running a little bit long, and so we have time for one of our Q&A questions, which I actually thought was, I'd personally be very interested in the answer to, which is what's a suggestion you have for the improvement of your program? So I'd like to invite two people to answer that with a couple minutes. And I'll let you volunteer if you have something in mind.
I have a 15-second comment. I think what would be great is that during the training portion of the teaching fellows, if they, they showed a lot of different videos of a lot of different scenarios. If they wove in more urban setting scenarios, I think that would be great, because seeing how they do it in Nebraska in a school that's really not diverse is not really as beneficial for us as seeing what it's like in New York City and Harlem in a classroom. That's the only real suggestion I would have for really making this as relevant as possible to us as we're going through this process.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Can I invite one more person to answer that question? Everyone is very impressed with their programs. I like to hear that. So that's great. I love to hear that everybody's been so satisfied. And if you do ever end up thinking of something, we would love everyone's feedback. So please don't feel shy about reaching out to us with that. So as we wrap up our program, we do have a special closing from a New York City Min Teach alum, as well as a CUNY Teacher Academy alum. That's Devin Nunez, who couldn't be here this evening. And so I know that we have a video. Oh, I see it's already queued up. And so I will mute myself.
Hello, my name is Devin Thomas, and I was a part of the class of 2017 Noyce Teachers Academy at the City College of New York. I am currently a fifth-year biology teacher and AP psychology teacher at Brooklyn Technical High School, a public high school in New York City. It's now more important than ever to give back and pay it forward as educators. As seen last year, in a world where teachers play a crucial role in society, we need more and more highly qualified educators than ever before. Alumni from the many programs that participated in today's conversation can start by simply opening up their classrooms and becoming cooperative teachers. We all know simply being in the classroom is one of the best ways to learn how to be an effective educator. By having more experienced teachers of all different classrooms open up, students and programs will be able to adopt new methods and different best practices that they can add to their tool belt that best match their teaching style. One of the greatest advantages I received being a part of the Noyce Teachers Academy was the massive exposure to the classroom. I was very fortunate enough to be in middle schools and high schools every week during my junior and senior years of college, learning from experienced, highly qualified teachers. It was through these experiences I was able to make strong connections with educators that I still communicate with today. It was through these experiences that reaffirmed my passion and my drive for the field of education. It's now our turn to give back to the field we serve and provide an equal or even better experience for those that are in training. By taking on a cooperative teaching role, we can share from our learned mistakes and provide teachers in training a roadmap of what actually works and what doesn't. Thank you.
Those were wise words from Devin Thomas from Men's Teach and the Teacher Academy at CCNY. And I will reiterate that the best way that we would invite you to be involved in the future is to welcome City College student teachers and other teaching fellows, other teacher academies into your classrooms as you can. We love to see our community giving back, and I think Michael was talking about leveraging the relationships he made at City College moving forward, and so I would echo that as a real benefit of developing these networks in moving forward as we give back to the New York City public school system. And so I would love to, again, thank our panelists for your cooperation and your participation. It's been really lovely to hear from everyone. And the Dean of the School of Education would like to thank you himself as well.
Hello, everybody. I'm Edwin Lamboy, Dean of the School of Education. I want to first apologize for being late. I had a meeting until 5:30, and fortunately, we finished around 5:25. It's been great listening to your stories and hearing about some of the programs that I have not heard about in a long, long time. For the last 8 years, I've been chair of a department that doesn't exist anymore. I've been associate dean, and now I have the privilege of being dean. And I've had, over the last 8 years, have in one way or another something to do with all of your programs. And it's been great listening to your stories. I particularly enjoyed hearing some of you speak about how these programs led you to where you are right now, as in the case of Lily Padilla, who is one of our adjuncts, and how participating in this program led you to the PhD program that you are about to complete. Wink. She knows what I mean. About the meaningful experiences that you've had, about how these programs helped you fulfill your dreams, how you see your role as a teacher of color, which is something that our students of color are so desperate to connect with, the importance of networks. I thank you for sharing the stories. I also want to say that these programs are special, not because they're special in the sense that they're not our traditional programs leading to certification. You are also special, or these programs are also special, because they allow us to connect with students who otherwise would not have come to City College School of Education. I'm thinking about some of your stories about how you started in the Peace Corps and how you started wanting to be a doctor and how you started thinking about a different path in your life. And somehow these programs gave you the opportunity to come to us, to be successful, and to represent us so well. So thank you for that. I also want to emphasize that as the saying goes, it takes a village to make these programs work, to run, and to be effective. And today, I mean, you mentioned some of the people who have made, who are part of this village. Some like Ashley Thompson, who was with us for the first 45 minutes. She's the dean, the CUNY Dean for Education, who is so extremely supportive of all of these programs, all of these initiatives. And fortunately or unfortunately for her, every time she comes to us and she says, I'm thinking about sending a group of people to do X, Y, Z, my answer is always yes. And we make it work. Again, we make it work because we are a village, and that's what it takes. Assistant Dean Pusey, Tristan Wildstein, Director of the Teaching Fellows Program, Dr. Bilingual, Dr. Stiliano, Marty, it's great to see you. There you are. Walter, Tatiana Klein and Nancy Stern, who work with our SPEP students, and to all of our faculty who are here, Professor Franklin, Randy. It takes all of us to do the work that's required for us to enjoy listening to these stories, like the stories that we heard today. I want to tell Miss Arce, where's Miss Arce? Is she gone?
No.
There she is, Miss Arce. I'm pronouncing. Notice how I'm pronouncing.
Yes, I love it.
Arce.
Yes.
I love your the two stories you shared about your students. So I want to share a story, a personal story, very quickly. I know it's 6:31. This story is about Angelo Natal, or as we will pronounce in Spanish, Angelo Natal. I had Angelo Natal, or Angelo, in my homeroom, 6J, at MS 181, sometime in the early 90s. Angelo was this quiet guy, really, really short. He is of Puerto Rican descent. He did very well in my class. He was quiet and disciplined. So he never gave me any problems, and he did very well. I also remember Angelo because he never ate the lunch that was provided at the cafeteria. He always brought his own sandwich. And it was a humongous sandwich. And when I met his mom during parent-teacher conference, I told her about the sandwiches, and she was like, yeah, I go to the bodega every day, and I buy the buns and the ham and the cheese. So that's how I remembered Angelo. Then after that, I left the school. I went on to get a PhD at Penn State, and life took me in a completely different direction. Well, I connected with Angelo on LinkedIn a couple of years ago, right? And we said, hello, how you doing? And that was it. And about a month ago, I learned that one of the teachers from back then at MS 180 had passed away. So I said, let me tell Angelo, maybe he remembers Miss Healy. She was a math teacher. So I sent him a message, and in his reply, he talked about Miss Healy, but then I guess he felt comfortable to talk about the role that I had played in his life and how I inspired him and how I played an important role in his life, which is something I never thought, because he was the perfect kid who was destined to do well regardless. So I'm sharing the story with you because you're very fortunate, Ms. Arce, because you're getting this beautiful feedback from your students right now, but sometimes you won't get the feedback immediately.
Yes.
I had to wait, close to 30 years to learn this from Angelo Natal. And that's what being involved in education gives you, is the joy of when you least expect it, finding someone whose life you touched and having that beautiful moment of you realizing, wow, I've done something special. So I'm going to finish with that, and thank you to my colleagues on the subcommittee of the Centennial Committee who put this together. It's been a long day. Let's finish and let's go home, please. Well, I'm home, but I want to have dinner and watch TV. Thank you, Dr. Lewis, Dr. Billig, Marty. You've done an amazing job. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you so very much.
Thanks.